Hello again. This time I'm going to look at a very simple concept that you'll see it reasonably often, not too many times, but it's very easy to use once you know it, quite hard to work out what on earth it's doing there if you've never heard of it. So it's a pretty basic clue with just this one interesting function in it. Feature of Cockney intellectual on the radio. 7 letters, feature of Cockney intellectual on the radio. Another one from the Observer actually, but quite a few weeks ago. So it looks like a pretty simple clue. I mean, there's a lot going on for only 7 letters, but you can be fairly sure right from the start. On the radio, we've done a lot talking about sounds like, so that's probably just a piece of functionality. So this, having nothing the other side of it, as a sounds like, it must relate to this or something before it. So either you're looking for something that sounds like a Cockney intellectual, something that sounds like intellectual and Cockney is doing something completely different, or something that sounds like all of this, but then you'd have no definition. So you've got to have your definition up here, and you're fairly sure that's functionality because it's very obvious, sounds like, and on the radio doesn't really mean anything. So this sounding like this, probably meaning that. But what is this doing? What is the Cockney doing? Now, this is interesting. Without this, you take away that, you need a word for intellectual that sounds like feature. Now, feature is a tricky one because it's used in crosswords quite frequently in its fairly archaic sense, or not archaic sense, but narrow sense of facial feature. It can also be a feature as in a film, which you don't hear very often either, and to feature, the verb. So you've got a few different options there, but it's quite commonly used in a slightly sneaky facial feature kind of way. It's quite often the last thing people think of. Now, once again, take out this word. You're now looking for a feature that sounds like intellectual. A word that means this and sounds like intellectual. Eventually, you might start to think that the word highbrow, intellectual, sounds a bit like the word eyebrow. And that's where this comes in. Because once again, crosswords being that slightly gentlemanly, largely sort of invented in London, city-based pursuit, they're a little bit sneery about the Cockneys, and Cockneys drop their H's. If you talk traditionally Cockney English, highbrow would be eyebrow. It's eyebrow, innit? So, intellectual on the radio is highbrow, but because you're Cockney, you take the H away and you get eyebrow. Although, of course, because it's a sounds like, you're going to spell it so that it works for the feature. So the eventual answer is, of course, eyebrow, spelled totally ordinarily, and all the Cockney has done is to take the H off this. It's usually dropping of H's, sometimes dropping of G's on the end of the ing word, and it can be a part of the functionality that that's affected by. So you can take the H off something and then put it in the clue, or the G off something and put it in the clue. But when you see this, just start to talk a little bit London in your head when you're trying to do bits of the other clue, and you might find that that's what that's doing there. It's just chopping the sort of proper diction off the end, one end of one word, either for the answer or for a piece of the answer. So yeah, very, very simple. It's not exactly eyebrow at all.